Hi and welcome everybody to this Lunch and Learn webinar, why EasyAsk is great for B2B e-commerce. I'm Robin Aitken and I'm joined today by Don Harris, who's our principal consultant, to talk about some of the reasons why EasyAsk is particularly suitable for B2B systems. Just a little bit of housekeeping. We've put our contact details up there so that you can get in touch with us, and of course this is being recorded, and so you'll be able to access the recording sometime after it's finished. We try and keep these sessions to 20 minutes or less, plus a bit of time for questions. And if you do have any questions, please type them into the question box on your GoToWebinar screen, and we'll hopefully get round to answering them at the end of the presentation. So with that, let's have a look at why EasyAsk is particularly good for B2B. And firstly, I want to highlight some of the things that makes B2B really complex compared with B2C. And I've put a few items on the screen. For example, typically in B2C, everybody has access to your catalog, whereas in a B2B environment, you in many cases are limiting the access to people that have an account with you, or at least who've registered. In a B2C environment, the same catalog is seen by everybody. Everybody can see all of the products that you make available. Whereas in B2B, you often will limit catalogs to certain subsets of your entire catalog. There'll be no limited products in a B2C environment, but in B2B, you might limit access to products by customer. It could be limited by warehouse, their ship to location, and so on. So that you don't have people buying and you're having to ship long distances. In B2C, of course, everything is the same. All products are the same price for every user. And this is where there's a huge difference in B2B. Price can change very dynamically. It could be based on the warehouse. It could be based on the customer. It could be very specific for that customer, i.e. Contract pricing. And only the ERP system can tell you what the price is when we know the context, i.e. who the customer is, what's the quantity they're ordering, and so on. And so pricing is one of those areas that is very different between B2B and B2C. And finally, in terms of this kind of subset of features, in B2C, products have consistent codes or part numbers that the user can search for. And that can be very different in B2B. Customers, for example, could have their own part numbers for things that you sell that don't match the part numbers that you have stored. Or there could be variant part numbers for other reasons. And part numbers are obviously really important because a lot of customers are going to be trying to find products by typing the part number. So, of course, it's particularly complicated with B2B. And excuse me, I'm just trying to change the slide. There we go. And that is really important when it comes to search. If you don't have a search system that can understand these complexities, then you can have all sorts of problems. So you could be showing products in the results of a search that the user is not actually allowed to see. Suggestions that pop up on your autocomplete may be for products that the user shouldn't be able to see. You might be showing category listing pages for products that the user, again, is not authorized to see. And of course, if we don't understand the price, there's no way we can store a price. There's no way that a search system can offer filtering by price or to show price ranges. And this is a biggie. If you're not handling part numbers really well, and your user types a part number, it's possible you simply don't find it, and that could result, obviously, in the user going elsewhere, or at the very worst, a phone call using up your agent's time trying to find that part for them. The great thing is that EasyAsk is really, really flexible, and the EasyAsk engine can be configured to handle all sorts of situations. So part number complexities, we can find part numbers in lots of different ways, not just an exact match. Catalog restrictions can be coded into our dictionaries, into the EasyAsk indexes, so that we know when somebody is searching whether we can return certain products. With B2B pricing, if you do something like warehouse pricing, for example, EasyAsk can take that information and actually figure out the correct price. And we do understand that in most cases, you rely on your ERP system to provide you with a price. And so EasyAsk really can't do much else except get that price from the ERP. And so typically that only happens when the user is viewing a product. But if you are using something like warehouse pricing, then talk to us about how we can make that work so that you can do things like showing price filters on the screen when the user is trying to zoom in on products. One of the things that EasyAsk can do is be very flexible in terms of numeric units and measurements, and that will allow far more searches to be successful. The search suggestions can be tailored to match your particular set of restrictions. So if you've got customers that can only see certain products, we're not going to suggest searches that are going to show products they can't see. Again, it's all about keeping that user experience really smooth so we don't get dead ends. We don't get something popping up and then have to say, sorry, you're not allowed to see this. And of course, analytics reports can be tailored with EasyAsk to fit your requirements. So if you want to see your reports by customer or by warehouse or by location, if that information is available, we can certainly do that. One of the problems, though, is even though the EasyAsk engine is capable of doing all these things, the Storefront default configuration won't allow you to do it because it was configured to only allow what every customer would want. So that means you get default part number processing, you get default catalog restrictions. Pricing, really, you don't get much at all with the default system because there isn't a default that Infor we're able to kind of configure there. And also the default configuration doesn't allow any numeric unit complexities. The search suggestions are going to be for all searches, even if they lead to dead ends. And the analytics reports are standard as defined by Infor. And this is one of the problems that we see when we deal with storefront customers is you've got this really flexible engine that can handle all these different complexities, whether it's catalog restrictions, numeric units, pricing, but your default system doesn't handle it. And that's because it is a default system. It was created by Infor, and it was created so that it would match all the customers. And with that, before I go any further, we just got a quick poll question about your current EasyAsk configuration. Does it match your requirements or expectations, or are you dumbing down your application because there are restrictions? And I think, Matt, you're just going to pop that up on the screen. Oh, I see it. I see it's on the screen.
Polls up now. Don't forget, folks, this is anonymous, so feel free to answer. We have no idea who's answering these questions and which way. We'll give this a few more seconds. Got about 50% voted so far. Robin, it seems like everyone is on the only partially train.
Oh, okay. Right, well, yeah, and that's kind of what I expected. Just because you've all probably got a default configuration, and not everybody is a default customer. One of the benefits of working directly with us is that we can configure the system to match how you do things. So for example, part number processing might work well for 30% of storefront customers, but the other 70% are putting up with something which means that a lot of part number searches simply fail. We can configure part number processing to match how your part numbers look, and to make sure that when users type a partial part number, for example, they are seeing that product in the results. Things like product substitutes and upgrades and so on. Don's going to talk about that a little bit later as well. Really powerful facilities for handling the complications of part number processing, and we can set that up for you as part of the default direct relationship. We can also set up the catalog restrictions that match your needs. So if you've got those restrictions and that information is coming from your ERP, then we can build that into the EasyAsk indexes so that when somebody does a search, they're only going to see the products they're actually allowed to see. Again, the same true with B2B pricing. If you're doing something like warehouse pricing, then we can configure it so that that actually works. And should you want, you could actually then show the price on search results and include things like price filters. And of course, we're going to give you an EasyAsk upgrade, and that will include all the functionality related to numeric unit complexities and being able to express measurements in lots of different ways, but still find the right products. We'll also include the search as you type module that will only present suggestions that are relevant according to your customer that is making or doing the search. And of course, we can tweak the analytics reports to produce whatever you want to see. And we do that with nearly every EasyAsk direct customer. We fine-tune the reports and we give them extra reports based on their requirements. So essentially what we're doing is we're going to tune your entire system so that it matches your needs and not the needs of the entire storefront base that Infor first created this EasyAsk system for. Just a little bit more on restrictions of products. There's lots of ways that you may restrict which users can see which products or which customers can see which products. And you may have specific customer restrictions. You may say that this product can be seen by customer A, but not by customer B. You could have restrictions based on the warehouse. You may have a restriction based on location, which in turn might determine what the default warehouse is, whether the item is a stock or non-stock item. And all of these things can be combined, so it can be very complex. The key thing is, if we can get that information, then EasyAsk can configure the system so that the search is only going to show valid products. And that's the key thing. You're not going to be showing products that the user is not allowed to buy. Similarly, on the pricing side, there's lots of ways that product pricing could be configured. So, for example, warehouse-based pricing, where items may differ based on the warehouse they're in. Contract or negotiated pricing, typically held only by the ERP system, and usually dynamically accessed through the ERP. So that's not calculated by EasyAsk. But there are other methods that you might use. Could be things like customer group pricing. And again, we have the ability to implement those things if you've got the data, or we can get it out of the ERP system. So pricing and product restrictions are those kind of key areas that are very specific to B2B, but which EasyAsk can really help with, but only if it's configured for your system and not in the default configuration. And with that, I'm just going to pass over to Don to talk a little bit about part number processing. So over to you, Don.
Thank you, Robin, and hello, everyone. Before I jump into a couple features that we've been working with our direct customers that we can provide pretty much out of the box in terms of the solution, I wanted to just mention that a lot of times, maybe even some of these particular features won't be immediately obvious to you that you need them, or maybe you really don't need them. You know, not every feature is going to impact your site, but there's a bunch of features just that we can assist with, like for instance, making sure, as Robin mentioned, about the relevancy, making sure your business rules are all matching what your business products are, so that when you do a search, the product order is pretty much what you're looking for. It's really kind of the sum of all these parts, including some of the features that I'm talking about, that when you then add them all up, you can really be kind of talk about like a night and day kind of site improvement. So I just wanted to mention that though this might not hit you quite as impactful, some of the parts really can. But specifically, and this one, we do think, by the way, that this will affect many B2B customers. Storefront already has the capability of knowing what sort of relationships between parts that there are that might already be in your ERP. Maybe you have it. We tend to find that there's a fair number of Storefront customers that do, such that the way you would see this is obviously if you go to a product page of one of your products, and that product has some sort of relevant part to it, maybe it replaces it or it's an upgrade or what have you, you can then see that part on the product detail page. However, it doesn't really manifest itself in the search experience. So if you search for a part that has one of these alternates, you won't necessarily see the alternate. This now brings this information into that Storefront already has into the EasyAsk index, such that you can see it. And we have a couple examples of what that might look like. Well, thank you. So here, first of all, there's the customer search for the number 10. Now, in this particular application, 10 can have lots of different meanings, but it happens to actually be a part number. So that isn't necessarily always the case that you have such small part numbers, but it can be the case, and we have seen it. So if you search for 10, here's the experience that we really kind of want you to have is that we show you the product that we actually is part number 10. That's the first one. Then the second one happens to be the upgrade of that part. And there's even an icon, as to showing it. Now that of course will require some sort of front end change, and I don't want to necessarily say for sure it's something we can do very easily or what have you, but we certainly, the main point is that the EasyAsk information that's coming back is letting the front end know why we're returning it. And then we can, then at least we have the option of doing something on the front end side. So just to show on the next slide that the first product is 10, you can see now the product detail page where this is the kind of the information that you already do have. Again, Storefront has this information where you can see that number one, this is SKU 10, and then also there's this relationship very clearly shown in terms of why that second product was being shown. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, Robin, on the third slide, is that even if we didn't show the upgraded part, but if we just showed the 10 first, that in itself is one of these things that we're talking about in terms of tuning. Because as you can see in this application, because we have SKUs that are pretty common, like the number 10 might be part of a dimension or something in these cases for these binoculars, they're going to come back. This is pretty much what you might get out of the box, maybe on your site today on searches like that. And it's a simple thing to tell EasyAsk, no, we really want the product number to show first, or maybe this related product number to show second. In fact, we can even flip those if you'd rather see the related one first. So anyway, this is kind of the level of information and the level of site change that you can have when somebody simply searches for a part number, and they hopefully get much closer to what you're looking for. Thank you. So the last one I wanted to talk about was something that we call numeric unit processing, or EasyAsk has this term as well. And this is actually a feature that has always been in Storefront. However, in our latest release, when we say that we're upgrading it to our later releases, you also get features that can impact the site, and in a way that's not necessarily meaning that you have to change your front end. So again, both these features I think can have a great impact even if your front end cannot change. In this particular one, the way you might have seen it before or maybe noticed it is that if you typed in like a 10.5 or some sort of fractional number, EasyAsk was able to know that, oh, okay, maybe 10.5 isn't represented that way in the database, maybe it's 10.5. or 10 dash half or something of that nature. So we already had that, and we had some amount of ability to connect that to a unit, such as 10 centimeters, and we would be able to pair those two and sort of search for that in a way that was a little bit more flexible. Well, we really greatly improved that in 16, such that we can have alternates to the unit that you type in, so that we now know if you type in a double quote, well, that could mean IN, or that could mean inch, or it could mean inches. And in addition to the fractional case, it then means that by the time that somebody search for 10.5 double quote in the middle of the page there, you can see that we're going to search for all these alternates of how it might actually be stored. That's the key, is that you may or may not store them all consistently, but even if you do, the customer may not be using that technique or that way that you represented it. But this, we have a much higher chance of being able to finally return a product that's relevant to what the customer search for. So again, we can configure what are these units. If you, we have some, they're standard inch and millimeter, things of that nature. But if you have your own that you use that we didn't have, we just have to know that, and we can put them into the system, and then they'll all follow suit. So anyway, those are the two that we're currently doing. We're certainly continuing to do more as we see fit, and as we get some more information from all of you in terms of what might be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. And that that whole area of numeric units processing is really powerful, and because you can define your own units, it's not just inches, millimeters, and so on in our examples. It's whatever you want, and as part of the direct relationship, we will simply help you configure all those different types of things, whether it's PSI type pressure ratings or anything else. We can set those up so that no matter how you've got it in your product data, your users can find it, so they can type their own variants. And you may, as Don said, you may even have the inconsistencies in the product data, which we see fairly frequently, where spaces and dashes are sometimes there, sometimes not. And so this really solves that problem. And if you've got measurements or units of any sort in your data, then this can be a big problem if it's not working correctly. And EasyAsk is designed to do that. So with that, we're going to just do another poll. So Matt, if you can kick that up on the screen. And it's really just trying to get a feel for areas that we've been talking about, and how it affects the people that are on the call.
Yep, they are answering now. So are there any options we've discussed that you need to have handled? Well, everyone's in the positive here so far, Robin. A good amount saying yes, and a good amount saying they need some more information.
Okay, that's good. And obviously, if you want some more information about any of these things, whether it's all of them or just you've got one particular problem, just get in touch with us, and we can jump on a call with you, look at your data, kind of look over your shoulder. You can share your screen, and we can show you how that could be fixed or helped in some way. So do get in touch with us. So in summary, B2B commerce presents a lot of challenges, particularly to search systems, because it's really important that you show the right products to the right users. And EasyAsk is flexible enough to be able to handle all of these complexities. The problem is that the system that Infor kind of configured for you as part of the distribution is a default configuration, and so obviously isn't going to suit everyone. All customers are different in some way or another. The benefit of the direct relationship with EasyAsk means that we can get in, talk to you about how your system's configured now, look at your data, check what your part numbers look like, check what your catalog restrictions are, and set it up the way that it should be. And that can have quite a big impact on your end users, because they're not getting they're not seeing products that they shouldn't see. That they're getting much more success with their searches. So with that, I'm just going to open it up to questions. So I'll leave. We'll give it a few seconds, and then Matt is in control of seeing what questions we've got, and then we can take it from there.
Yeah, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to throw them into the questions box. We got a couple already. First one, Robin, can EasyAsk handle part numbers if the user only knows a portion of the part number?
Yes, I mean that's what I was referring to with the part number configuration, because EasyAsk has a number of ways of indexing part numbers, or any other field for that matter, but it's usually part numbers. And so what we can do is configure that so that we can spot the components in part numbers. For example, you know, if your part numbers commonly contain separators like hyphens or slashes or dots, we can configure it so that if the user forgets and types a dot instead of a hyphen, it doesn't make any difference. Or if they forget to put the suffix or the prefix on the part number, it won't make any difference. We will still find it. But it really depends on, you know, what your part numbers look like. But we can certainly do that, and that's one of the biggest benefits of working directly with us, is we already have those tools. They're just not configured on your system.
Thank you, Robin. Got a second one here. It says, I can't see images in my studio. Is that something EasyAsk can help with?
Again, yes, and it's quite a common problem when we start working with storefront customers. That there's various reasons that can cause that, and yeah, one of the things we do as part of you know, having a direct relationship is we will do a health check on your system. And one of the things that we always check is that you are seeing images in Studio, because it makes life a lot easier for you when you want to preview that changes you've made are working correctly and search results look right. If you can see the images, it makes life a lot easier. And yeah, it's a common problem. I'm not surprised that somebody has asked that, because, you know, I would say almost 50% of customers that I deal with, when we start working, there's no images in Studio. And there's usually 2 or 3 different reasons, but we get in and fix it.
Thank you, Robin. Folks, still got some time for questions if anyone wants to throw any in there last second. I'm not seeing any right now. So Robin, I'll throw it back to you. Oh, wait, we do have one that just popped in. So it says, if a customer searches for a part number, can EasyAsk associate PNs from other manufacturers in the result? So if the search is ABC123, can EasyAsk also be configured to return ABC-123 as well as XYZ-321 at the same time?
Yes is the short answer, and we do that by configuring what we call a part number expander or exploder that will detect the differences in the component parts of the part number. And so, you know, ABC-123 can be exploded into ABC and 123. So it could be found if somebody types 123 or ABC. Obviously, if somebody just types ABC, they will also find ABC 456 because they haven't specified all of that. But they will find the ABC 123 as well. And if they put these components the wrong way around, then that won't matter to EasyAsk. We will still find them. And of course, we do have the ability, because we're in a direct relationship. If you've got some special requirement, like you want to ignore the first 2 characters of part numbers because, you know, they've been put in the ERP system in that way and nobody recognizes those, then we can do things like that as well. So we do have standard tools that allow us to do things like explode part numbers into component parts and to swap them around, to substitute different separators, including space, and also things like the we call the begins with expander, so that so long as the user gets the first few characters right, it doesn't matter about the rest. We will still pop it up on the screen. So we've got a range of tools, but we can also customize things. And part numbers is something we are super powerful at. And so if people are saying they can't find part numbers, you really need to speak to us, because that's something that's right in our sweet spot.
All right. And again, yep, I think that's it for questions, unless anyone else has one that pops up in the next few seconds. I'll let you know, Robin. But that's it. Back to you.
Okay. So I just wanted to mention that the Lunch and Learn series, this is part of. We tried to run these monthly. That this one got delayed slightly, and so the next one is actually in 2 weeks. It's on November the 18th, and it's part 2 of this one. So why EasyAsk search can help in a B2B context, and we're talking specifically about search as you type and analytics, and we'll show you some examples of the sort of analytics that you can produce if you're in a direct relationship, and we can set up the analytics to match your system. And we're also going to be looking a little bit in that webinar about some of the features that we're going to be putting in the future. So we're planning on releasing version 18 of EasyAsk in Q1 of 2022, and there'll be some features in there which will be useful for storefront customers. And so we're going to be talking a little bit about what's coming, and also some other stuff which is going to be quite exciting. If you've got any suggestions for what you would like us to cover, then please do let us know. I think Matt will confirm it, but I think you get a feedback, a questionnaire about the webinar, and in there you could suggest what you really want to hear about, because there is there's lots of topics that we get asked about, and it's a case of finding something that's going to be meaningful to more than one person. And one of the things that we've been asked about by several customers is we've got lots of information in our product descriptions. How can we kind of pull out information from those? So we'll probably be doing a webinar on that. Cleaning out old dictionaries as well is a topic that's come up more than once. So I think that will probably be on the agenda at some stage in the next few months. But let us know if there's anything else. And with that, I just encourage you to give us some feedback. We can only get better if you tell us what's wrong. And I just thank you for your time today. And I'm just going to pass back to Matt. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Robin, Don, Mark, and everyone that has attended this webinar. We really appreciate your time, and we'd love for you to get actively involved with us to help take control of your B2B site. It's the first step to making dramatic changes to your site's capabilities, and well worth your time. And as Robin said, please fill out the survey that pops up at the end of this webinar. It does give us the best information for future webinar ideas. And don't forget, as Robin said, this is part 1 of a 2-part webinar, with part 2 coming Thursday, November 18th. You'll see an invite very shortly after the end of this webinar, which is right now. So thank you all again for attending, and have a great day.
Thank you.